Well, good morning. I'm Bill Jewell. I'm with Intech. It's a cold, snowy February morning. I've decided to come in and do you a video on what I call DSL, or damp spray cellulose. Today we're going to show you how to do this with an absolute minimum of equipment. We'll be looking at our Combat 32 pump that we use for water pressure. We'll look at our Force 2 insulation blower that will provide material. We'll look at the 3-inch Combat nozzle that sprays out. And we'll look at the interesting little device called a stud scrubber that's used to smooth the cellulose down over the face of the studs and to smooth the overall face of it down smooth, so when you put your drywall up against it, it meets the cellulose surface perfectly. Now, a quick word about safety gear. Since I consider this more of a classroom kind of a demonstration, I may not be using all appropriate safety gear, but make sure when you're in the field that you are for your own safety. Wear a hat, wear better safety glasses than you see me wearing, wear a good quality mask that's got the little metal strip in the top that you can bend down over your nose to seal it up well, and then a pair of gloves to protect your hands. And boots. If you wear your cowboy boots, make sure they have pointy toes and Cuban heels. Now we're back in the glass enclosed demonstration, research and development, and training blow booth area of Intech. We're way back in the corner of our big old factory here. We want us back here because we're pretty dusty back here, and we want to isolate that dust away from our pristine clean electronic assembly areas, machine shop, welding facilities, urethane pouring facilities, final assembly parts. Let's go over here to our Combat 32 pump. Here's our pump right here. We have ours set up on a rack with the large tank here as a reservoir for our pristine, clean water. I'm only going to run pure water. I'm not going to use any glue on this application. Now, operation of the pump. There's an on-off switch here on the side. On the very back is a circuit breaker in case it overloads. You have your intake and your overflow hoses here that go in your reservoir, and you have your material supply line that goes out to the 3-inch Combat nozzle. When you get your Combat pump, mount it on a round piece of 3/4 CDX plywood, drill a couple of holes for your hoses to come up through, and mount all of that on a nice, much cleaner than this 40-gallon trash can. This will be your reservoir for water. Make sure you keep the water or water glue mixture in this as clean as you keep your body. Otherwise, the contaminants will end up being in the tips. Now, on the way in, I'll be flipping on the switch right here that controls the overhead fan in the blow booth to keep the air nice and clean. And we'll see a few of our hoses. We have quite a few of them that go up above the blow booth, form 150-foot loops and come back in for testing, and specifically more for density testing. And a whole rack of various kinds of remotes of one sort or another. The end of our industrial vacuum that's in the blow booth here. And then we have this little baby right here. If there was ever a hot rod of the insulation blowing machine industry, you're looking at it, the Force 2. This is the legendary Force 2 that we came out with in the mid-late 80s that is still very recognizable as the same machine today. You'll see a little bit of hose on the ground down there that I have laid out. Here's the control panel for it down here. Now, in the upper right corner is the red and black switch to turn on the agitator and blower control circuits. Then we have this little switch right here, the variable speed bypass switch, and the little knob below it, which is the speed control dial. I'm running this way down at about 30-35% or so because this is kind of a low pressure operation more than a high pressure operation. And then I'm running it through a shortened, older, very vintage remote that uses the old style rocker switch. Now, I could have used one of our newer soft remotes that I came up with the idea here a few years ago. They do interchange perfectly, but since I kind of like keeping things history to history with the machine, I'm using the smaller old-fashioned remote. Now, next thing we're going to talk about here a little bit is the 3-inch Combat nozzle. This is the nozzle that injects water from the tips on both sides that are on that side and the other. the end of the nozzle is slightly squished together so that it produces a bit of a fan spray. The last component that we'll use is the stud scrubber. It's a handle, an electric motor, a drive belt, some adhesive pads that spin. You'll run those up and down, or rather down, the cavity to smooth down the surface of the cellulose, even with the stud faces. Now, let's talk a little bit about the three jobs involved in the teamwork here. The first job is the hopper operator. His job will be to keep the area around the hopper clean, safe to run, and to always make sure that our level inside of the hopper stays in the 1/2 to 2/3 kind of full range. The stud scrubber's job will be, when he first gets to the job, to take a broom and sweep back from the wall that we're going to be spraying to make sure that we don't have any contaminants or anything like that that could go through the insulation blower. The last job will be the one that everybody else works to support, the actual nozzle operator. Once you get spraying with this nozzle, you don't want to stop. You want to be supported by the recycle man scooping the recycled material up with a big shovel just like this, taking it back, dumping it in the hopper to keep things going. Now, those are the three jobs for the crew to do, and if they all work together on this, it goes quite quickly. Now I'm going to turn the camera off, set it back up on the tripod, and we'll do a little dry run, and then we'll actually spray.
Alright, I've turned on the pump and I've turned on the overhead exhaust fan, so it's a little bit on the loud side in here right now. Let's go ahead and get the machine going and do a little spraying. I'm going to turn on the water first. Then I'm going to spray up one side, then I'm going to spray the bottom, then I'm going to underspray the top so we can see the difference between the two textures. Well, let's get rolling here. Let me grab my remote. Get the water going. Get the material going. Now I'm going to purposely underspray this part right here. The water looks a bit heavy. So I'll underspray here. Turn the machine off. Now let's use our stud scrubber and see what our surface looks like. Now let's evaluate this surface. Down here in the bottom where I've oversprayed, it's nice and even and a good pack. Up here towards the top where I've undersprayed, it needs to be flashed in.
Alright, now that we've sprayed the cavity and we've evaluated the face of it, we've seen that on the bottom where we oversprayed that it's stud scrubbed off fairly smoothly, and we've seen on the top part where we've undersprayed that we need to go back and reflash that quickly. That's simply a matter of a quick flash with the wand. Now that we've seen how to kind of start doing this, obviously this is not everything that it takes to do it, but it should be a good start for you. And I think I hear the Intech hotline ringing in the background for assistance. So I'm going to have to cut this video off. We're going to say adios amigos and good luck with your spraying efforts. Have a good day. Intech, this is Bill. May I help you?